Hello YouTubers, and welcome to the Lightest and Best, where we look at the lightest and best offerings from a variety of knife manufacturers. Today we're going to be looking at Medford Knife and Tools Micro Praetorian. Greg Medford of Medford Knives is based out of Phoenix, Arizona. This is a scaled down version of the Praetorian, which is 2/3 its size. Actually, Medford Knife and Tool makes a smaller offering than this. It's the Dress Marauder. It comes in at 2.18 ounces, has a 2.6-inch blade. However, it starts at $650 at Blade HQ, and it only has a handle that's about 3 inches, which wouldn't be able to get a four-finger grip on. So we like to review knives you can get a four-finger grip on and really have as an EDC. The specifications of the blade are: the blade is 2.875 inches, the handle length is 3.85 inches, and the total knife length is 6.75 inches. It has a blade thickness of 0.19, which is 3/16 of an inch, which is a very thick, stocky blade. The weight is 4.3 ounces, and I have a variety of knives here that we're going to compare it against, even some stocky knives. To start off with is the Hinder half track, and as you can tell, they're very similar in size. And then the Strider PT Lego. Next you have the Custom Knife Factory Peaks Dukes, which is another chunky knife. The Ontario Rat 2. The Zero Tolerance 0900, which is a very chunky knife, is about a little bit smaller than that actually. So those are some comparisons in size. The blade of the Micro Praetorian is a D2 steel, and as you can tell, it has a lovely DLC coating to help prevent rust. And this is important because the D2 steel is famous for having problems with rust. As you can tell, there's a Medford Knife and Tool /D written on the blade. On the blade there is a fuller which you use for deployment. Deployment on this knife is a little difficult because you have to break the detent and then you have to extend it. You can do it in a one motion, but you have to use your wrist. There we go. Even it's hard. The blade is a drop point with a hollow ground and is incredibly sharp. The blade stops, you'll note, are on the outside of the handle. There's a blade stop there, both on the titanium and the G10 side. And then to open it, you have a blade stop there. I want to point out that the blade stops do not have a titanium liner as some knives do. It's locking against titanium on one side and the softer G10 on another side. I want to give you an example of a knife maker that does this differently when they use a scale. This is the Zero Tolerance 0562. And it has a titanium scale, but then on the carbon fiber they put a liner made out of titanium. So when the blade, which has external stops here as well, knocks against the liner, it knocks against titanium, and titanium, it has a metal lock on both sides. Provides safe, secure lockup and a good, solid, no blade play lockup. The method, as I've mentioned, is a fuller, and for me it's very hard to open. You have to open it in two motions. The handle is made out of G10 on the show side and then a stonewashed titanium on the lock side. The end of the handle has a glass breaker, which you get the feeling could really break glass. It's held in by two screws, and note that the screws screw directly into the titanium. The titanium is threaded, so it doesn't have a Chicago screw, so if you mess up these screw and cross-thread the screw, you have to retap the hole in the handle. The pivot is a phosphor bronze washers, and there's 2 washers per side. The pivot is proprietary, and he doesn't send a proprietary tool to unlock it. However, a number 14 spanner bit will disassemble the pivot nicely, and you can buy these at your hardware store. The lock bar is a frame lock. The frame lock has no lock bar insert, nor does it have an over travel stop. But with scales as thick as these, you really don't need an over travel stop. And one could say that the pocket clip acts as a partial over travel stop. The pocket clip we'll turn it around here, has the Medford knife and tool symbol on it, and is a milled titanium pocket tip clip. It is a one method carry, which is right hand tip up only. The ergonomics on the knife are fine. You can get a 4-finger grip, but that last finger just barely gets onto the handle, which is why we didn't review the Dress Marauder. The Dress Marauder is over ½ an inch smaller and would therefore only be a 3-finger grip. The warranty on the Marauder is a little worrisome, and the Praetorian, because all of the Medford knives have a warranty that says that you're not supposed to disassemble them, and if you do disassemble them, it immediately invalidates the warranty. So what are my impressions of the knife? The Medford Praetorian is a heavy knife coming in at 4.35 ounces. It's usually heavier than we like to use for a daily EDC, and it's difficult to deploy. You can really deploy it with a 2-step method, and you can retract it nicely, but it isn't one of those knives that you can just flip out there with the fuller deployment method. And there's an irony in the knife. The knife is designed to be overbuilt, yet they have you locking up against G10 on one side and only have titanium on the other side. They might have wanted to put a titanium liner on the other side. What do I like about the blade? I love it in that it's chunky, and if this is a chunky knife, this is the one for you. And because it's hollow ground very well, this knife cuts amazingly well for a 0.19 inch thick blade. I just want to cut some paper here for you. It slices through paper like butter. So for me, the Medford Praetorian is a little chunky, a little heavy, but if you're looking for a thick knife with a stout blade that's as sharp as a razor, the Medford Praetorian may be for you.